It's Monday, March 9th, and this is now on HNN. U.S. stocks plummet amid coronavirus fears, but that's not the only reason the markets are taking a hit.
Basically, it's a Russian attack on our oil industry.
Officials nationwide are stepping up measures to slow the spread of coronavirus. I'm Skyler Henry in Washington as cases in the U.S. rise.
It's our responsibility to protect the vulnerable. When I say protect, I mean right now, not wait until things get worse.
Meanwhile, the state announces a second confirmed case of COVID-19 here in Hawaii.
An elderly resident of Oahu.
It's the biggest prize in tomorrow's presidential primaries. I'm Natalie Brand in Michigan with what voters in a critical battleground county outside of Detroit are saying about the race.
And I'm hoping that I can make a difference.
These stories, plus there will be a special sight in the sky tonight, coming up on This Is Now.
Good morning, everyone. What a wild day on Wall Street. Thanks for watching This Is Now. Take a look at the closing numbers. The Dow down nearly 8%. That's a more than 2,000 point drop out of fears of the coronavirus and some other issues causing the markets to drop today.
That's right. Stocks went into a steep slide today on Wall Street as coronavirus fears and a crash in oil prices spread alarm through the market, triggering the first automatic trading halt in over 2 decades. Now, the price of oil sank 20% after Russia refused to roll back production in response to falling demand, and Saudi Arabia signaled it will ramp up its own output. And take a look at this. We're going live to California now, where a cruise ship with a cluster of coronavirus cases has arrived at a port in the San Francisco Bay Area. The ship was forced to sit off the California coast for days. The Grand Princess pulled into the port of Oakland just hours ago, and it's unclear how many travelers will get off the ship today, but the captain told passengers that not everyone would be able to.
And we got some more news for monitoring. Another live video feed coming into our digital center right now from Washington. Mike Pence, and we believe the president's going to be a part of this news conference coming up in just minutes. It's going to be in regards to the coronavirus. We're going to get an update from them. Of course, we're going to bring that to you live. That's coming up in just a few minutes here on This Is Now. Wow, a big news day and a lot to get to. Let's start right off with the latest on the virus.
Right, so the number of coronavirus cases in the U.S. has topped 500 as federal, state, and local officials in at least 34 states and the District of Columbia work to contain the outbreak. Here's Skyler Henry from the White House.
Passengers aboard the Grand Princess cruise ship docked in Oakland, days after being held off the coast amid a coronavirus outbreak. At least 21 Americans on board who tested positive for the virus will be treated at area hospitals, while hundreds of others are quarantined at U.S. military bases for 14 days.
Individuals will not come in contact with general public at any point.
As the virus continues to spread, the state of New York is distributing its own line of hand sanitizer to transit workers in schools.
This is a superior product to products now on the market. This is 75% alcohol.
In D.C., health officials are asking anyone who attended Christ Church, Georgetown to self-quarantine. The church's rector was named as the district's first confirmed case.
The church further suspended all services and meetings until further notice.
Sources tell CBS News President Trump will huddle with economic advisors at the White House to look at targeted relief measures for businesses and industries feeling the impact of coronavirus.
He and his economic team have the tools to keep this economy going strong, but the public health and protecting the American people is the #1 priority for all of us.
For now, the State Department is warning Americans not to travel by cruise.
It's our responsibility to protect the vulnerable. When I say protect, I mean right now, not wait until things get worse.
Federal health officials say a majority of state and local health labs in all 50 states are now equipped to test for coronavirus. Skyler Henry, CBS News, the White House.
And back here at home, a second OAHU man is the latest presumptive positive case of COVID-19. This patient is not linked to the Grand Princess cruise ship. Instead, the man who is said to be in his 90s, who is now very ill, recently returned from Washington State. Lynn Kawano continues our team coverage.
We're describing what we know about the case, and there's a lot we don't know about the case. State health officials emphasize that they're still in the early stages of the investigation. They say the man started to feel ill in Washington state on March 2nd. He was symptomatic when he returned to Honolulu on March 4th and immediately went to an urgent care facility. But he was not tested for the new coronavirus. After 3 days, an ambulance took him to Kaiser's Moanalua Medical Center, where a sample was taken due to his travel history. And that test came back positive Sunday morning.
We are still in the process of contacting individuals to identify exactly what their exposures may have been so that we can then provide them with the appropriate recommendations as to whether they need to stay put and stay home and monitor themselves.
The man remains in isolation at the hospital. DOH officials say patient privacy rules restrict releasing more details, his age, who he lives with, where he lives.
We were fortunate to be able to speak with this individual before they basically could not be able to communicate with anyone. So we were able to get key pieces of information from that individual, and we're following up.
But they have not been able to confirm which airline the man used to return to Hawaii, saying that will come from the CDC, which is the lead agency. Authorities will likely focus on travelers in the same row, as well as 2 rows in front and behind of where the man was seated.
Primarily, did you have absolute face-to-face contact with this person for a significant period of time? That's what we're looking for. That's what is the risk.
Others exposed, healthcare workers at the urgent care, EMS, the hospital. But the state says all should have been trained on protective gear.
Our investigation is to confirm that they did follow the recommendations regarding infection control. And frankly, our concern more is for those unprotected non-healthcare worker, non-first responders who wouldn't have had that personal protective gear.
The state says this is the 12th person tested in the week since test kits arrived. On Friday, that number was 6. DOH says the state lab is working to ramp that up, and private labs are training, but they won't be ready to test for at least a few more weeks. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
And late last night, Hawaiian Airlines released a statement confirming that the passenger was on board its flight from Seattle to Honolulu on March 4th. The airline says it's notifying passengers and its own employees. Hawaiian also says the plane used for that flight was, quote, thoroughly sanitized upon arrival by a team of 16 cleaners who utilize disinfectants that effectively kill most viruses, including COVID-19. And meantime, Hawaii's first coronavirus case was announced on Friday. Officials say the OAHU man traveled on the Grand Princess cruise ship last month. That's the same ship that was denied entry to San Francisco after at least 21 people on board tested positive for the virus. Officials say the OAHU man was on the ship when it traveled from San Francisco to Mexico starting February 11th. He then got off in Mexico and returned home by air. Officials say the man is now in quarantine at home and is doing well. Despite the state reporting 2 new cases in 3 days, officials say they have not found signs that the virus is spreading in the community.
Yeah, and Bruce Anderson with the DOH talked a lot about that yesterday. Let's listen to what he had to say.
There's one significant point that I want to make here, and that is that we have not yet had any cases of COVID-19 that have been clearly transmitted among residents here in Hawaii. All the individuals we've identified so far have a travel history to some area where COVID-19 is circulating outside of Hawaii. That's the good news, but obviously there are lots of areas in the country where COVID-19 is becoming a significant problem.
All right, that's Bruce Anderson there with the Department of Health. You know what? I want to show you these numbers again. This is the Dow. That's just really sad to look at. Numbers down 8%. That's more than 2,000 points. Everyone's concerned about the economy at this point, and we wanted to talk about what's happening here locally. Our friends at Sunrise got together a group of panelists to discuss this exact issue. Let's listen into what they had to say.
We're back with our expert panel on the tourism visitor industry. Stephen Levins is the executive director from the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. Former Mayor Mufi Hanneman from the Hawaii Lodging and Tourism Association. Carl Bonham on our left from the UH Economic Research Organization, and Jerry Agrusa, an associate professor at the UH School of Travel Industry. Good morning, guys.
Thank you.
So it's kind of a loaded question, but I'm going to throw this out there. This is from one of our viewers. Eric Bruce asks, what is the plan if all travel stops? Again, we're not there yet. But I guess this could also be put into play as in regards to the visitors that would be stuck here in Hawaii. Obviously, we'd have to make sure that they're okay.
So that, I don't think that's a realistic event. Okay. So that would require some kind of declaration of an emergency by the federal government that would have to mandate that airlines can't fly. I'm not sure they could even do that. And if for some reason it were to happen, visitors who were here would be able to get home, right? You wouldn't literally strand people and lock them down, or at least it's unlikely. So I really don't think that's an outcome we should be worrying about at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, I kind of agree. I mean, the private sector would do all it can, as I said earlier, to keep people employed, but that would require massive government involvement and intervention, should that ever happen.
Yeah, I don't think that, we did have it at 9/11 when they did shut down all the airports for a day or two, but I don't think it would go for any period of time. And as Carl mentioned, it would need to be a declaration, and there's no reason for that at this time. I don't see how that virus is that way.
Okay. How about this one? How are hotels affected? How are they coping in the current situation?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, we're continuing the educational process of ensuring that from our workers to management, that we're all on the same page, ensuring a clean and healthy environment and setting for our visitors to come, and also for our workers. And I think oftentimes that's lost in the discussion. We want to make sure that our workers feel good and healthy about coming to work. So that's important. And secondly, obviously, for those in the management position, we're keeping an eye on that bottom line. As we start to see seats that are decreasing, as travel is not as robust as in the past, everybody has a plan A, plan B, plan C. Some of them will start it sooner rather than later, especially those that have a national affiliate, and then there are those that are small in size. So it's just basically monitoring, watching it very closely. And when people say, when are you guys going to start, lowering your room rates? That's a double-edged sword there, because if they start doing it drastically, and then we come back and we start to rebound, it's hard to recoup all those losses all at once to get it back up. Plus, I think it's going to be a major disincentive for the visitors that we like to attract, the higher spending visitors, to come to Hawaii, because they're going to say, wow, that's not the place that maybe their services have been reduced. They're not looking as nice anymore. They're not as appealing. I'm going to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And the hotel.
No, go ahead. Both
and the hotels that cater to the Asian market, specifically the Korean and the Japanese market, they've already been hit. They're already seeing the downward turn, and that's two reasons. One is in Korea there's a restriction, or they're level 3 now, and in the Japanese, they're very, very safety conscious. So some of the hotels that focused on them, they've already seen a very quick drop. But the other markets are still very strong, and I think that, as we mentioned earlier, there will be some form of a dip, but hopefully it will bounce back very strong afterwards.
So really, as Mufi said, what's going on here is this sort of constant adjustment and planning process, and it is true that there have been differential impacts depending on where most of your visitors come from, but the hotels are seeing out in late March and April very, very few bookings, right? So people they're waiting, right? And so the hotels are going to sort of constantly adjust both. And initially what you'll begin to see is extra nights free, right? Because you really don't want to just drop your room rate by 5 or 10%. You provide other perks, right? Maybe resort fees are waived, or the extra, an extra night free. And they just will continue to adjust both on what they're offering to potential customers, but also how they deal with labor and how they manage the overall resort. And that's in part because we don't know when this thing's going to turn around. We don't know exactly how deep things, how bad it's going to get. And so it really is this constant readjustment process.
Stephen, I want to get you involved. Go ahead. Did you have something on this?
No, I was just going to say, as Mufi pointed out earlier, it may be a very good time for local people to do staycations. I myself received texts and emails from local properties offering very good Kama'aina rates, and these are high-end properties that these kind of rates weren't available before. So I think that, local people may be able to, there may be some good that comes out of this terrible situation for some local people. And if you're hesitant about going to Europe, for instance, you had a planned vacation to Europe or Asia, stay at a hotel here in Hawaii and help our economy out.
Yeah, you're right. And to add to that, I mean, you're not going someplace that you don't know, so you're not going to be in unfamiliar territory. Okay.
Right.
I want to add one more. This is actually really specific, but some guests are being self-quarantined at the hotels. Is there any concern that this is going to be kind of a deterrent for future visitors at all?
Well, here's the thing, and we had a very good meeting with Dr. Anderson, Dr. Park on this. Obviously, if that person is very sick, the hotels have made it very clear, and the Department of Health agrees that they will transport that person out of the hotel and take them to, they talked about Leahi Hospital or some of these other things, but we made it very clear. If it gets to that stage, we're not the medical experts. We wouldn't know how to treat them going forward. And so it's really wonderful to have that reassuring news from the State Department of Health that they will do that.
And no matter what level of coronavirus infection they have, once they've left, I would imagine there's extensive cleaning that's going to be done in whatever room.
It's ongoing. It's ongoing.
There was a case just now. One of our former students is a manager, and the housekeeper opened the door, and there was this young Japanese male that was very sick, and they thought, oh my God, she didn't want to go in the room. And what happened was they already took them to Doctors on Call came, and they checked, and it was the flu. So what they did was they wanted to see the documentation. The general manager wanted to see the documentation, and when it's the flu, it's the flu. And when people get the flu, they go down. Whether you're a college student or you're a professional football player. And with that, he kept in the room for 3 days, and then he was a young male. He bounced back and he was okay. But there was a precaution for the employee, for the housekeeper, and then they went and there's a procedure as Mufi said, and this happened just last week. I got a phone call and I was talking to somebody who's a general manager of a Waikiki resort, and that was it.
Yeah, all our managers are on it. I mean, as I said, at the end of the day, you want a productive and motivated and a very positive workforce. So we're not going to be derelict in that aspect of it.
So all the more reason to explore those staycations.
Yes.
One more thing, there have been multiple major festivals in Hawaii that have already been canceled or postponed. Good idea, overreaction? Where are we on that, guys?
Well, there's two factors there. One is of the three that have been canceled, two came from the organizers themselves, only one from HTA, which was the Clippers game. But the Pac Fest and the other festival, the Honolulu Festival, they were both from the organizers, so that's part of it. The other part of it too, I think, realistically, sometimes they don't talk about it, but they're seeing that people are not going to attend. They're seeing the decline in attendance, decrease in attendance, and so to me that could be a good thing too, not just from a health perspective, but also from the fact that you don't want them losing money to an event. But I think that what we all say here is that it's health first, health and safety first. And so as much as we want to see these events go on and continue, sometimes it's necessary. But for the local events, if we can manage it, I'd like to do it. Like I said earlier there with Mary Monarch, maybe our kupuna has to be a little more careful about attending it. But by and large, it's a great event. We're having a trade show at the Convention Center in the middle of April with Star Advertiser and the Hawaii Restaurant Association, and we've made a decision to continue to go forward because the Convention Center really gets it. There's sanitizers all over the place. They want us to come there, and it's an event that local exhibitors and local hotels and local restaurants are looking forward to.
And I've actually invited my students to come too. I teach a hospitality management class, and they're all signed up to come to this event. And I think that one of the things is, right now, we're just trying to get a handle on it. And if we can just get a better grip on it, and without the big events happening this week and next week, then I think we'll get that.
So what you're hearing from the experts is certainly in areas where they have outbreaks is people should be avoiding large events. Okay, right now we don't have hard evidence. They don't have evidence of a widespread outbreak in Hawaii, right? So to the extent that we don't end up with community spread, then that advice doesn't necessarily apply to us in Hawaii. Assuming you don't have an underlying health condition, or you're 65 and older, then it may be, and not to belabor a point, but we aren't the medical experts, right? But maybe going to those kinds of events continues to be a fine option, and we should continue to hold them.
Yeah. I mean, funny, a lot of people shy away from a big event, but we all pack it in Costco together, right? At the same time.
Yep.
Hey, one more question. Have you been getting complaints, or have anybody just heard of any instances of visitors having trouble canceling or rescheduling plans?
I have not heard anything along those lines yet, and I think that the hotels here in Hawaii are trying to accommodate our visitors in that. But if anyone is booking, they need to look at the fine print regarding the cancellation policy. But I think at this time, the marketplace really takes care of itself too, because if you go to one hotel chain and they're giving you a hard time, you're not going to go back there. You're going to go to a competitor. But I think as a general statement right now, we're finding that the hotel industry here in Hawaii is being very accommodating to our visitors. The airlines are actually, if you can get a hold of them, that's another problem, but they have changed their cancellation policies, and they've liberalized their booking policies and postponing your trip. So to that extent, they've been very good. But to answer your question, as of this time, we are not seeing any kind of spike in complaints.
Yes. So most of what we're talking about in terms of the relaxation or the changing of policies has been for travel after March 1, I think. And so if you booked a trip 3-4 months ago, you're still going to have to, visitors, Kamaina, who are thinking about traveling to the mainland, are still going to have some change fees associated with that. Doesn't mean you're losing all your money, but it can cost you something. I don't know if airlines have modified those policies.
That's true, but I think an important point is that if you run up resistance from a hotel or from an airline, escalate it, talk to their supervisor, and in many of those cases, particularly if you are a repeat guest or a frequent flyer, they will try to accommodate you. That's been my personal experience, and that's been my experience from talking to others.
I want to echo that. Okay. That's exactly. I mean, we talk about the low spirit. Yes, there's the bottom line, but to the extent, and you're correct. If you get a situation where it doesn't seem right, ask for the supervisor, ask for the GM, and we'll try to accommodate you, whatever that past policy might be. If we can, we'll help.
Yeah, and a big part of why we have such great hotels here is we have good Hawaii people that are working in those hotels. Gentlemen, we appreciate your time. Obviously, there's a lot to cover with this, so we appreciate the expertise all around.
All right, thanks, Steve, and our panel there. They've been doing that a lot on Sunrise lately, having those panels of experts come on the show, really taking up a lot of that traditional news time, but it's very important. I know it's something our station is committed to doing and keep doing to keep you informed in a very balanced and panic-causing way. I really like the tone of what they're doing there on Sunrise.
Very informative.
Yeah, definitely. We'll keep watching them every morning.
Yep, so Costco, of course, is seeing stronger than expected sales as consumers stock up at its stores to prepare for a more widespread outbreak of the virus. Costco says the impact from the coronavirus boosted its monthly same-store sales for the month of February by 3%. And the company is telling analysts that it's been receiving deliveries daily and in some cases is placing limits on how much consumers can purchase.
All right, yeah, I got back from vacation last weekend, had the toilet paper trouble that everyone's seen across the city, had to borrow some from some friends. Thank you, folks. Thank you for lending me that all-important TP. All right, hey guys, I want to take you live to Washington. This is a press conference, a press briefing that's about to get underway in Washington. Mike Pence, we know is going to be there. We're hearing the president is going to speak as well. This is going to take place any moment now. We see a reporter there. That's John Roberts, I believe, giving an introduction. We really expect this press conference to get underway in just seconds. But in the meantime, we're going to turn to some other news, and we'll dip back into this at the moment it starts. What's going on, Ashley?
So North Korea launched 3 unidentified projectiles Monday morning. The launches come at a time when the U.S. and South Korea joint military drills have been postponed indefinitely because of the coronavirus outbreak. Now, thousands of South Korean soldiers are being isolated, and the U.S. Army announced travel restrictions for its soldiers. Here's CNN's Ivan Watson.
At a time when the coronavirus epidemic is seriously disrupting trade and travel across East Asia, North Korea has embarked on another round of saber rattling. South Korea's military says it detected the launch of 3 unidentified projectiles at around 7:30 a.m. local time coming from the eastern coast of North Korea into waters between the Korean peninsula and Japan. That these projectiles flew a distance of about 200 kilometers at an altitude of about 50 kilometers. Japan's prime minister has denounced this, saying that it is a threat to peace and stability in the region. South Korea's military says it is not in the spirit of a recent agreement between North and South Korea aimed at de-escalating military tensions on the Korean peninsula. Now, this is the second possible missile launch in about a week, because exactly a week ago, North Korea fired projectiles, 2 of them which the U.S. military later said were short-range ballistic missiles. 5 European countries condemned the act at the United Nations Security Council, saying that they were violations of United Nations Security Council resolutions, which that was criticism that Pyongyang did not like at all. It fired back, saying that its actions were defensive in nature. Now, the launches come at a time when the U.S. and South Korean militaries are seeing their actions increasingly disrupted by cases of coronavirus diagnosed within their ranks. They have postponed indefinitely joint military exercises. There are thousands of South Korean troops that are in isolation right now, and the U.S. Army has just announced that all travel for its soldiers to and from South Korea, as well as their families, is banned as a preventative health measure right now. North Korea has not announced the detection of any coronavirus in North Korea to date, but that is a country that is notoriously opaque, not transparent at all. And some serious and important aid organizations aren't taking any chances. Doctors Without Borders, the International Federation of the Red Cross have both succeeded in getting waivers from the United Nations to lift sanctions for the movement of emergency medical supplies to North Korea, anticipating that if the epidemic spreads to that country, it will be ill-prepared and it will not have enough resources to deal with the threat of a public health crisis. I'm Ivan Watson reporting from Seoul.
And meanwhile, the U.S. has begun withdrawing troops from Afghanistan. According to a U.S. official, it's part of the initial drawdown to 8,600 troops required by the U.S. Taliban peace agreement. Now, there are currently over 12,000 U.S. troops there. If the Taliban meets the conditions of the peace agreement, the remaining U.S. troops are supposed to depart the country within 14 months. And to politics now, voters in more than 6 states weigh in tomorrow in the next rounds of presidential primaries and caucuses. The biggest prize is the battleground state of Michigan, where both Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders are campaigning today. Here's Natalie Brand.
Thank you.
Senator Bernie Sanders hoping to repeat his success in Michigan 4 years ago.
For our next president, Bernie Sanders.
Held 4 rallies across the state in the final days before Tuesday's vote.
Michigan could be a make or break moment for Sanders. Do you see it that way?
Sure, absolutely. Yep. And I'm hoping that I can make a difference.
Joanne Keeling also backed Sanders in 2016 when he narrowly defeated Hillary Clinton in Michigan's primary in what was considered a major political upset.
I was really sad when he didn't make it, and I'm glad he ran again.
It's time for us to take it back.
But it's former Vice President Joe Biden who enters the next round of contests as the frontrunner and leading in a new Monmouth University poll. To take the temperature of Michigan voters, we headed to Sterling Heights in the heart of Macomb County, known as a key election bellwether.
You have blue-collar workers, you've got small business owners, you've got really every type of voter.
Including coveted crossover voters. Sterling Heights Mayor Michael Taylor is one of them. This year, he'll be voting in a Democratic presidential primary for the first time.
Who are you voting for?
Joe Biden. He's more appealing to people who maybe are Republicans, generally vote for Republicans, but can't take President Trump anymore.
Manal Dababna also voted for President Trump in 2016.
I want change.
She's now backing Sanders.
I believe that insurance should be for all.
While I like Bernie's ideas,
health care for all, free college. I'm just not sure that's practical at this point.
While voters here weigh their choices, the results could give a revealing look at what's ahead.
Winning in Michigan means you've made connections with real people about very important issues.
Tuesday's primary offers the first taste of how voters feel in this critical battleground state. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Michigan.
And some politics news here at home. Puna community leader Ikaika Marzo intends to run for Hawaii County mayor. He made an announcement on Facebook yesterday. Marzo has not held public office and admits it will be a new experience for him. During the 2018 Kilauea eruption, he helped organize a community hub, which officials said successfully helped those affected. He will run against Hawaii County Prosecutor Mitch Roth. 4 others have reportedly filed to run for the position. Now, current mayor Harry Kim has not said if he intends to run for re-election. We're told Kim plans to make a decision by next week.
A lot of folks were expecting him to announce some sort of run, and there we go. This local politics is really heating up this year already.
Yeah.
All right, we got some other news. You guys are going to want to look up in the sky tonight if you walk outside.
That's right. Get ready for a spectacular view from our lunar neighbor. A true full moon will light up the sky tonight, and it's a phenomenon known as the full warm moon. Now, supermoons happen when the moon is at its closest approach to Earth in orbit. The moon will seem bigger and brighter at night, and it will appear full through early Wednesday.
All right, let's see how exactly it's going to be outside tonight, if it's going to be clear enough to even see it. Here's Billy V with an update.
Aloha, I'm Billy V sitting in for Guy Hoggy. We're recording this just after 9 a.m. here on this Monday. Let's give you your forecast. First of all, we'll concentrate on the surf, and not a lot of surf out there. 4 to 7 up on the North Shore. East side's going to be 4 to 7. Town spots 1 to 2, which is great if you're visiting our islands. 1 to 3 on the west side. It's going to get a little bit of a northeasterly swell. Small one that'll come a bump. That's tomorrow night, and then another bigger swell coming up on Thursday. High pressure up to the north of our islands, and that's bringing the trade winds nicely across our island chain. So that means sunshine with windward and Mauka showers drifting leeward at times, and that'll continue on for today. Trade showers tonight, but as we move into tomorrow, we're going to get a period of where we've got lighter winds, and then Wednesday into Thursday we've got a frontal system that'll move through the islands and bring rain showers, and right behind that frontal system, trade winds, which by the weekend, which will mean nice weather for you. Today, windward and Mauka showers drifting leeward at times, mostly cloudy skies for Kauai, partly cloudy for Oahu, mostly sunny for Maui County and Hawaii Island. Sunshine on the Kona side. Hilo side's got rain showers. Get the latest on air, online, on your mobile device, and at hawaiinewsnow.com.
And to royal news now, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle have made their last official appearance as senior members of Britain's royal family. And as Cindy Palm reports from London, the final royal engagement was noticeably different.
Harry and Meghan were not part of the royal procession at Monday's annual Commonwealth Church service at Westminster Abbey. Instead, they were escorted to their seats while senior members of the royal family walked with the Queen. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex will soon begin a new life in Canada with their 10-month-old son Archie, ending the drama that began 2 months ago when they announced they were stepping back from royal life.
They're going to be hugely missed. I think they're beloved. And I think loads of people, me included, think it's a very courageous move. I think they'll do very well across the world for their global charities. And they'll still be great ambassadors for the royal family, title or no title.
It's been quite the farewell tour for Harry and Meghan. They've made a flurry of appearances in the past few days to say their final goodbyes. The couple received a standing ovation during a concert at London's Royal Albert Hall on Saturday.
She really is beautiful, isn't it?
Earlier in the week, Meghan thrilled students with a surprise visit to a mixed-race school in East London.
We saw a lot more young women, particularly young black women, who hadn't perhaps felt a connection to the royal family previously, and that, of course, is going to be a loss to the royal family.
As Harry and Meghan carve out a new future, they will reportedly make caring for veterans in the U.S. and the UK a key focus of their charity work. Cindy Palm, CBS News, London.
It's all coming to an end there. That happened fast. I'm going to miss them. I'm sure we're still going to see a little bit of them
They'll
here
be
and there,
very
right?
much in the public eye still.
All right, speaking of the public eye, all eyes on Washington at this hour. We're still awaiting that press briefing about to start any moment. We're thinking this is still just minutes away. There's been some sort of delay, but that tends to happen with these things. We are going to keep this live picture up and await what the vice president we know is going to be there, and we're expecting the president to talk as well, giving us an update on the federal response to the coronavirus and what exactly is being done from Washington to handle it. I can tell you there is breaking news out of Europe at this hour. Italy's prime minister has announced a more severe lockdown, now including the entire country. It was just including the northern part of the country. We're also waiting an update that we've been getting daily here locally from our state officials. They've been sending us email updates, and if it warrants, they hold a press conference. So we'll be looking for that later this afternoon as well. Again, this is a live video feed coming to us here in the H&N Digital Center of a press conference that is about to begin. We are going to leave this picture up until that press briefing happens and it is concluded. So stick right here with H&N. You've been watching This Is Now. I'm Jonathan alongside Ashley. We'll be back here tomorrow. Again, stand by for this press conference.